We're back with more reader comments and my answers. From reader Sinan, and I'm going to have to abridge a little. The 47% was not a gaffe, it was truth-telling. The rape comments weren't gaffes either. Those men explained to the nation the reality behind all conservative positions on birth control and abortion. The problem is not the messaging, it's the message and the core belief system. Someone on the right needs to completely rethink every single thing you believe in. Politics is the work of applying continuing convictions to new circumstances. The circumstances always change, which is why politics is such a dynamic set of problems. Conservatives have a core set of beliefs about the role of markets, about the role of the individual, about the limits on the state, about the importance of private property. And I share those beliefs, which is why, despite what a lot of my old comrades in arms would say about me, I remain somebody who is very much a conservative and in conservative politics. Our conservative challenge is that we collected and coalesced our policies in the 1970s and 1980s, facing a different kind of world. And the world of the 21st century demands new kinds of policy answers. But when you say you have to rethink everything, you have to rethink how you're going to make your politics operational. But you hold on to your core principles. That's the challenge, and that's why politics is such an excruciatingly difficult, endless adventure, to borrow the title of a favorite book of mine. The second comment comes from reader Practical Girl, who's a regular commentator, and it applies to, or refers to, Bruce Bartlett's story about his sudden ban from appearing in Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. This sort of edict from on high came down through the pipe to prospective producers all over the spectrum within the conservative entertainment complex. This guy, insert name, won't be booked. The subject isn't for our shows. It's a good example of the memo, the thing the whole industry denied and tried to mock out of public consideration, like so much suspected. Yes, the memo exists. I can only answer this with a story from my own experience. For about a year, a little longer, after I got fired from AEI and became temporarily, I hope, persona non grata on the right, I would periodically get phone calls from Fox bookers who would try to book me onto this show or that to talk about something I'd written. And it became sort of a sport for me. I would always tell them yes, whether I could do it or not. I'd always say yes, just to see what would happen. Sure, gladly, yes, of course. By the way, I would say, are you new here? And they would always say, well, yeah, it's my first week. I'd say, okay. Why don't you run this past your executive producer before we lock in? And a few minutes would pass, or an hour or 2 hours, and they would call me back and say, we've decided to take the program in a different direction today. I said, okay, I'm not surprised. I released the time. This is from reader Joanna 2, and it concerns a blog post I wrote about how the president's tax plan will raise taxes above the level of the 1990s and above the level of the Clinton administration in order to fund Obamacare and his healthcare ideas. Do you really want to underscore the fact that Republicans would rather keep lower taxes for the uber rich than insure their fellow Americans? All this talk how Republicans should start caring about middle class, but when it comes to action, we still have to count on Democrats because you want to use healthcare as another bargaining chip to save Romneys and Trumps of this world a few bucks. Yeah, I want to keep taxes low if I can. I don't apologize for that. I think that's important. I also think we can keep taxes low while properly funding a healthcare system. I mean, the key fact about the American healthcare system, the most important thing to keep in mind, is it is just incredibly expensive and doesn't produce better results. When you're spending 17% of national income on the whole healthcare system, and half of that is government money, when the amount of money that the United States government is spending on its half of the healthcare system is nearly as great as Canada and Britain spend to fund the whole of their healthcare system. You can think if we could get more efficiencies, if we could drive more efficiencies, it should be possible to fund proper healthcare for just about everybody while also maintaining a low level of tax. This is an extremely rich country. GDP per capita is higher than in other countries, and you should be able to use that money to provide a healthcare system that costs 13 or 14% of GDP, that should be able to do what everybody else does for 11 and 12% of GDP, ensure everybody, provide a decent level of provision. The whole idea that what we are going to do is drive for taxes relentlessly higher in order to fund healthcare as it exists, well, that's one of the things that's wrong with Obamacare. Because the president talks so much about paying for healthcare only by taxing a few, he takes away from the system any incentive to save money for everybody, but saving money is the thing we most need to do.